Today, my guest is Dr. Susanna Soberg.
Dr. Susanna Soberg.
Dr. Soberg.
Dr. Susanna Soberg.
Her research is focused on how deliberate cold exposure and deliberate heat exposure can be used to enhance human metabolism. Dr. Soberg is considered one of the world's leading experts on these topics.
Dr. Susanna Soberg, welcome to the Arrived podcast. You do a lot of research on the use of heat and cold and the effects of heat and cold on the human body. When I'm getting in cold water, what is changing inside me that is usually not happening?
So the body is reacting as if you're going to die, but you're not. But it makes sure that your vital organs are kept warm.
What is brown fat?
Brown fat.
Brown fat.
Brown fat.
Brown fat.
Human adults actually also have this mysterious tissue in the body, but we kind of didn't know a lot about it.
And
what
where
we're
is
using
it? Like,
for.
where is it in the body?
Well, it's located 6 different places. These 6 different places are brown fat is working more like a muscle. So you can train it to lose weight. And you can do that in different ways. And this is where you need to listen. Being too long in the cold water, you're losing the benefits, to say it. It's not something that will help you. You could increase or you could decrease your mortality or risk of dying earlier if you did this 4 to 7 times per week. And that is actually... When you push your body in either way direction of the temperature scale, you will push your cells to adapt to that situation. And that takes fuel, that takes mitochondria. And we need better mitochondria health in our world because then we will live longer, simply. So we know that type 2 diabetes, and I know that's a huge problem also in India, but around the world in general, actually. So we want to work on that insulin sensitivity. If you can train that, you have a better insulin sensitivity using contrast therapy.
What is the Soberg principle?
So the Soberg principle is dipping their heads under the water. That is also stupid. It also decreases the menstrual pain for some people.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. It does, the cramps.
Your workout with things like cold baths or ice baths, does it have an impact on sex hormones in humans? Around the period, women are generally a little bit more edgy in terms of their mood. Is it a good idea to go for this method during that time? This will help all the men in the world.
I think that...
Cold plunges aren't just about braving the chill, they are science-backed recovery tools. Research shows they can reduce muscle soreness, improve blood circulation, activate brown fat. It is the good fat that you want to have. And even boost mood by triggering a release of dopamine and endorphins. The best part is you don't need hours, just 2 to 3 minutes in uncomfortably cold water, and that's enough to see the benefits. You can add it right after a tough workout for faster recovery, or first thing in morning for natural energy boost, or in the evening to calm your mind and improve sleep.
So we are doing this cold plunge today.
Time to go in. This video is sponsored by ARC Athlete Recovery. ARC is building the recovery culture our country never had, but always needed. We are one of the most hardworking countries in the world. We will need all the recovery we can get. Harness the power of cold. ARC for the athlete in you.
Yeah, you seem like you're chilling there, literally. And literally and metaphorically both ways, you're chilling.
I started using the Cold Rush MI from ARC Athlete Recovery, and I haven't missed an ice bath since. Usually, ice baths used to be a pain. Buckets of ice, dirty water, constant cleaning, total waste of time. And I could not do it as often as I wanted to. But this has changed the game completely.
You want to go in? I think I can do this, yeah, that's fine.
It is compact, it holds temperature 24/7, filters and ozonates the water so it's always clean. Basically, does everything except take the plunge for you. If you're serious about recovery, then there's nothing like it. Well, this is not a trend, it will add real value to your everyday recovery. Dr. Susanna Soberg, welcome to the Arrived podcast. First of all, thank you for having me here in this wonderful campus of yours and agreeing to do this because I've been a big fan and following your study and your research. I'll get straight into it as I have limited time. So you do a lot of research on the use of heat and cold and the effects of heat and cold on the human body. I want to start with asking that what happens when we get cold?
Yes, there's And thank you for having me and pronouncing my name right. Even Søberg is not easy to say. So cold and heat therapy as tools is what I've researched. And what happens when you get cold, it really depends on what modality you're using. You can get cold with the wind, going outside if you live in a cold country. Mm-hmm. But if you're not kind of used to the cold wind or cold environment like that, there's like a way to also cooling your room. Mm. So that is also something that is scientifically proven to activate your metabolism in the body. And that is what I've researched. There is also a more, you can say, invasive way of doing that. And that would be submerging your whole body into cold water. And cold water is defined by at 15 degrees Celsius and down. So it doesn't really have to be that cold. And when I say not that cold, that's because us up here in the Nordics, we think that 15 degrees Celsius cold water is not that cold. But I think if you live in India, I think 15 degrees Celsius would feel pretty cold. So it might be that you could have what is called a cold shock your body, activating your sympathetic nervous system already at 17 or 19 degrees Celsius. So this is about how adapted are you actually to cold.
Okay, so when I'm getting in cold water, say 15 degrees or less, what is changing inside me that is usually not happening?
Yeah, that is a big question. So when you submerge your body into the cold water, so many processes are happening in your body. First of all, you activate your cold receptors in your skin, which will send a signal via the nerve endings up to your brain, where you have a temperature regulating center. In your brain, there is a lot of neurotransmitters released because you are activating your autonomic nervous system, and the part of it which is the fight and flight system. That is the alert. You want to get away. You want to run from this danger, which it's really not, because it's deliberately, but it activates in a way that makes sure that you won't die. So because you are doing this, maybe you're doing it the first time, you will have a high release of dopamine, and which gives you a lot of drive, and it gives you that kick.
It's the feel-good hormone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of them, you can say. Yeah. There's also noradrenaline or norepinephrine. It's just the same, two words for the same thing. When that is activated and released in the brain, it will activate what is called our brown fat. And we can get back to what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds so weird, the brown fat. But I'm going to explain that. That's my research area, you can say, where it all started. But when that happens, you shut down or you close your veins in your body, peripherally in the body, and that is to constrict the warm blood in your core. So the body is reacting as if you're going to die, but you're not. But it makes sure that your vital organs are kept warm. So the whole mission is just for the body to keep yourself warm. And it does that by closing out the cold, by constricting the blood vessels. And it does that with the norepinephrine, which is just released to the body, and increasing the heat in the body. And it does that with activating the brown fat and activating the muscles. So these are the two thermogenic tissues in the body. And thermogenic means tissues that can produce heat in the body. So this is the mechanism for keeping you alive, but at the same time also more... you can say the autonomic nervous system makes sure that you're also just constricting and making sure that the warmth is just kept in your body.
Okay. So just for everyone to understand, when you say that the blood vessels constrict peripherally, that means at the ends of our hands, our ears, our toes, they become, the body does not send the blood out, and then it gets all the blood in the core temperature and activates the brown fat and the muscles. That's what you said, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we get to brown fat. What is brown fat?
So brown fat is this mysterious fat that was discovered like hundreds of years ago, actually. And the professors who have discovered this in animals thought that it was only in animals who are hibernating. Yeah. But then we found hundreds of years later that this is also something that humans have. Brown fat was discovered as being a tissue that will keep us warm and keep our metabolism in balance. So it's kind of the same thing. So when you think about temperature, you should think about metabolism. So when you increase your temperature or you decrease your temperature in your body, you will activate your metabolism because you need to be in balance. That is why metabolism and our nervous system is totally working together. So when you change your temperature, it could be when you fall asleep at night, you would, you can say, turn down your metabolism. And when you wake up, you turn up your metabolism. So the reason why brown fat is so important to us, and we figured that out after the millennium, we could see that this tissue is not only in, for example, babies, where we see that there's a lot of brown fat, but we see that adults, human adults, actually also have this mysterious tissue in the body. But we kind of didn't know a lot about it.
And
what
where
are we
is
using
it? Like,
for.
where is it in the body?
Well, it's located 6 different places. And these 6 different places are close to the central nervous system.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's very, very much in your core, down your spine, and located under your armpits. It's located around your neck. It's there close to your central nervous system because that is where the noradrenaline is coming from. So that means if you accidentally fall into cold water, then you would need your brown fat to activate very quickly, right? Because you need to survive, produce some heat in the body. And that's the main thing that the brown fat is doing. It's making sure that our vital organs are kept warm. So it's centrally placed in the body, but also very close to the brain, where the norepinephrine is coming from.
Okay. So I have another question. How does brown fat increase the metabolism? Like, what happens? How does it do? Like, what's chemically going on in there?
Yeah, it's a good question. And that is also, let me just take it a little bit on the cell level.
Yeah. And sorry, because when we talk about fat, we just think of something that's just sitting there and literally doing nothing. But but what's happening with brown fat?
Let me phrase it out. So we have what is called the good fat and the bad fat. You can put in these 2 categories. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a bad fat right there.
So we have the white fat, which is on the belly, on our thighs, and we want to get rid of that. And it's super difficult.
Yeah.
So we are really trying to figure out how can we get rid of that excessive white fat. We need some, but we don't need that much. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah.
So we want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And the white fat is storing energy in our body. The brown fat, on the other hand, is expending or increasing the energy expenditure, burning calories in the body. So in a sense, the brown fat can actually burn calories in the body, and the white fat is storing calories in the body. So they work opposite, but both of them are actually a kind of fat in the body. But the brown fat is working more like a muscle. So you can train it. It's a muscle almost that you can train. It can increase in efficiency and in volume. So you just need to figure out how can you get more brown fat to lose weight.
And how do you do that? By activating it.
By activating it. And you can do that in different ways. And this is where you need to listen, because there are so many ways you can do this in.
Yeah.
And some of them are free. And some of them will cost you a little bit, but then there's a good outcome, at least. So cold temperatures, for sure, is the most potent activator of the brown fat. If you can just get cold in some way, you will activate those cold receptors in your skin, activate the brown fat, and increase your energy expenditure. And now let's just get down on the cell level, because I think that's what you also asked me about. Yeah. It's a little bit nerdy, but I think you can handle it. So when we get cold, and norepinephrine, which I just talked about before, is increased in the brain. Let's say you're getting into your ice bath, right? And because of that, it would sit on the brown fat cells and activate the cell. When it does that, it increases the energy expenditure by using glucose and fat as fuel from the bloodstream. because there's actually small lipid droplets inside of every brown fat cell, but that is kind of like a small storage, and it's used very quickly. It's like a small storage, yeah, but you kind of need a flowing fuel to the brown fat to keep it activated in order for it to increase heat. So the outcome of taking glucose and fat from the bloodstream as fuel is for the cell to keep activating and increase the heat in the body. Also, it does something else, which is very smart from human biology, I think. It also sends a signal to the muscles in the body. So the muscles and the brown fat are working together to keep your temperature up in the body and to keep your metabolism up. So actually, when you exercise, you also activate your brown fat. So there are different ways you can activate your brown fat, but the most potent one is cold exposure.
Getting cold. Okay. So I'll tell you my personal experience after listening to your podcasts, and especially with Dr. Huberman.
I'd love to hear this.
I love the podcast, really.
Thank you.
And I got to know so much about this very, very underrated therapy that I call, or a way of life for a lot of people, that I should do it more often. So I started taking ice baths and also made sure that I took cold showers. But that's only during like a month or so of winter that we have in Jaipur, where I come from. That's north, close to Delhi in India. Now, when I took my first ice bath, I went in for a very long period, 25 minutes, which is not really great, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Yes, absolutely not. And I realized that soon after I finished.
Oh.
So
what happened?
Well, I was shivering for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
I think that this is important for your listeners.
Okay.
So what was that experience? Because 25 minutes, I know what happened, but I want to hear your experience with that, because it's kind of important to tell your listeners, why is 25 minutes a really bad idea? Yeah,
because the moment I got out, I was not warm enough for a very long time. And I was shivering really, really bad. And it went on for a very long time. So after like 10, 15 minutes or maybe 25 minutes, then I had to go and warm myself up in a steam that we had in the gym. So it was kind of, and I felt really, really cold. I have never felt that cold. Is that normal? Is that what happens? And what's happening there?
Yeah, so the thing is about being too long in the cold water is that you're losing the benefits, to say it. It's not something that will help you. So the benefits are already there after a few minutes. There is no reason to cool your inner organs. And there's also something called the after drop, which I'm pretty sure is what you experience afterwards. Yeah. So that means when you're in the cold water, that is not where you're going to be the coldest. The coldest you will be is when
you get out.
When you get out, exactly. Yeah. So when you get out, what happens is that your blood vessels peripherally will open again because you got out of the cold water. But then what happens?
The core will start cooling down, which it should not, because the blood has left the core and it's gone to the periphery.
Exactly. Yeah. So the warm blood in your core is coming now out to the cold tissue and therefore cooling down your blood, which returns to your vital organs. Oh. And there you have your receptors, temperature receptors, telling now your temperature regulating center in the brain, oops, now I am getting really cold really fast. And then you start to shiver. That's okay. Shivering is okay, but it can also mean that you are getting too cold, which will put stress on your inner organs, and that you don't need, you don't want it, and it's definitely not beneficial for you. So the benefits that we are looking for is when you are activating those neurotransmitters and hormones that will increase your metabolism and increase or change the chemicals in your brain. And it happens within a few minutes because there are so many misconceptions around this, and there are so many people doing this wrong. That is actually why I created the Soberg Institute. I think that is something that professionals need to look into, because when you are guiding people in this, then you need to do it right.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions that I think about when you explaining me this is, number one, can we talk a little bit about shivering and why is it important? And then what's the right way to do it?
So shivering is important, and it's important in the beginning. When you get used to the cold, you will shiver less, but it doesn't mean that you don't get the benefits. So you still do. So the shivering can be good, but it should not be a goal. Because the body adapts, and the more adapted you are to the cold, the more the body will recognize this environment, and the shivering will almost vanish, because you have increased the mitochondria in the cells, which is the muscle cells, but also in the brown fat. So you increase your heat faster and faster, and that's potentially what's going to help you also stay longer in an ice bath, but that doesn't mean that it will be beneficial for you. So you don't have to you don't have to push yourself to go longer and longer. That won't be helpful for you.
Okay. And so now we know that we don't want to do it for too long, definitely not 25 minutes. How long should this be done for to have the most benefits out of it?
Well, a few minutes is enough for each ice bath.
Would you say 2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah. Well, it also depends on when you are over the cold shock. So that should definitely be a goal. So if you are new to this, you should use your breath, slow breathing, to get through the cold shock. And once you're over that, you can use that as a tool to really also train your nervous system to tolerate more stress, because the cold is a stress, right? So it's not only on you can say the physiological and the physical side of it. It's not only those benefits that you gain from it, but there are also some mental benefits. And one of those, I think, are very important in this world of burnouts and stress. And we want to help people like get out of that stress. And you can actually use this as a tool to also widen that window for how much stress you can tolerate. And that is something that you can train using your breath. And
when you talk about stress, you also mean the general mental stress in our daily lives. We can train our brain or our nervous system to tolerate that as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's actually connected. So when you can tolerate physical stress, like the cold, but also the heat, actually. So when you train that pain receptor, a pain pathway in your body, you are actually training how much pain and stress you can tolerate. And that's correlated to how much stress you can tolerate as well. So it's actually on the same pathway. So stress is something that you can train to tolerate. I'm not saying you should go out and do brutal things to yourself. Yeah. It's not like that. But in a sense, a cold ice bath is also, it's actually brutal. You're doing it only for a few minutes, but it's brutal, but it's something that you should think about as a tool. As long as it's deliberate, and of course it is, and you're not overdoing it, then I think it's a good way to train your mental health as well.
I agree. It's pretty brutal, especially... Okay, I will come to this, but I'll just share my experience. The first thing that I'm doing every morning is to have a cold shower, since I don't have an access to a cold plunge per se. And every time, especially during the winters, I am about to turn that shower on the cool side. I have to close my eyes and just tell myself, okay, let's just get under this somehow. Those first few seconds, like say the first 10, 15 seconds are the most difficult when you really want to get out of it.
Yeah.
But once you pass that, it gets easier, or say you get stronger.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. I am definitely much more cold adapted than I was. So yeah, for somebody who's not cold adapted at all, it does take a while to get used to. And that's something that's very important from what I get from you. But that's cold. and we understood why it's good for you. What about heat? Tell me about it a little bit.
Yeah, so, well, heat can be used as a tool as well. So heat can be, it could be a hot bath, it could be a steam room, it could be a sauna, and there are different modalities you can use to get warm. The point of getting warm is for you to sweat, right? Because you want to get that heart rate up, because you want to mimic actually a cardiovascular exercise. And why I'm saying that is because the science from Finland is, there's this big cohort study where they have followed, scientists have followed Finns who do sauna at least one time per week and up to actually every day. And they have looked at what kind of outcomes, health outcomes did they get out of that after 20, 25 years. And I think the most astonishing results they got from that is actually they could see that you could increase or you could decrease your mortality or risk of dying earlier if you did this 4 to 7 times per week. And that is actually with 39, you could decrease your risk of dying earlier with 45%.
Wow.
I think this is very important. So what they looked into is also the mechanisms behind this. So sauna is increasing your heat in the body. The body wants to dump that heat by sweating, and you increase your heart rate and without even moving a muscle. And that is, I think, very important to say that when you look at cardiovascular risk today, those are some of the biggest killers in the world. So we really want to have a lower risk of dying and working on our cardiovascular health. So if you can have access to anything that serves you as something that will give you heat to the body, then that would be a really good thing. So
Okay. So now we know that cold and heat both are beneficial. But you talk about something very interesting, which is a contrasting therapy. And you call it the thermalist method. Please tell me about it.
Yes. So the thermalist method is what we call the contrast therapy. I call it that because it's not just using a cold tub and using a sauna. It's a specific program because you can do this, I found out during the last couple of years, you can do it in a non-beneficial way. So following a specific structure for this will make sure that you get the benefits as well. I studied this for 10 years now, and contrasting between the cold and the heat is going to push your cardiovascular system, your metabolism from one extreme to the other, and that takes fuel, it takes energy, and that is where we see that you get the most benefits. Where we see that in my research is that our participants in my studies had actually a faster glucose clearance from the blood. And just to explain what that means, it means that when people use on a regular basis the cold and then going to the heat and going back to the cold and back and forth, that means that they will push their metabolism to either increase the heat in the body or decrease the heat in the body. And that takes energy, takes fuel from the body, and that is the white fat. So now you're burning the fat and the sugar from your bloodstream, right? And you need to train your body to be faster and faster and better at that. And the body just wants to survive whatever you're doing. Yeah. So the body actually tries to tell the cells, oh, work faster. And how does it work faster? By increasing mitochondria in the cells. And we need those mitochondria because those are the small fabrics in the cell, in our cells, that will make sure that you easily and fast adapt to every situation. So when you push your body in either way direction of the temperature scale, you will push your cells to adapt to that situation. And that takes fuel, that takes mitochondria. And we need better mitochondria health in our world because then we will live longer, simply. And when you do that, you will see a faster glucose clearance. So it clears the glucose from the bloodstream and it also burns the fat. And we see that in our participants in my study. They had a faster insulin, you can say, sensitivity, meaning they didn't have to...
Can you explain that?
Yeah, insulin sensitivity is something you really want to improve on. Because when you can improve your insulin sensitivity, you are further away from getting type 2 diabetes. And I know that's a huge problem also in India, but around the world in general, actually. So we know that type 2 diabetes is a disease that is also correlates with a shorter lifespan, right? So we want to work on that insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity means that your cells in your body are not very good at sensing that there is sugar around. So the insulin helps the sugar in the blood to get out of the bloodstream.
Correct.
Yeah. So we want the cells to be very sensitive to the insulin. But if we are not...
Just a little bit of insulin and the blood should go out. That's how it should ideally happen,
Yeah, ideally it should not be like that, but it's kind of not.
Okay.
But if you can train that, you will have a better insulin sensitivity using contrast therapy. And this specific method that I have developed based on my research is science-backed. Because there's so much going on out there where people are doing it either too long or people are guiding people in different ways. I know it's innocent, I would say. Yeah. Many people just don't know that there is just because you have found in research that cold and heat is beneficial for you, it doesn't mean that there's not really a way to do it. Yeah. It's not just go out and do whatever. Yeah. There's actually a better way to do it where you actually also get the benefits and don't overexhaust the body. Because when you overdo it, you overstress your organs. And when you overstress your organs, you're not getting the benefits. It might even take years off in the long run. Okay, great. So I understood two things from this contrast therapy, the Thermalist method. Guys, you got to check this out. Number one, it helps you lose fat, right? Because you're increasing your metabolism and then that helps you lose fat in turn. And number two, it increases or improves your insulin sensitivity. So people with type 2 who already have type 2 diabetes, will they also benefit from this? I mean, I would suppose so, but we need research studies specifically with type 2 diabetes patients where they do this contrast therapy. But there is research specifically on heat, so on the sauna, where they have looked in randomized clinical trials on type 2 diabetes to see if they could lower the glucose levels and increase the insulin sensitivity. And here we actually do see that they decrease the glucose levels and improve the insulin sensitivity by using a sauna for 8 weeks. So there is definitely studies on specific one modality or the other, but using it in contrast for specifically type 2 diabetes, that study we are still waiting on, I would say. Okay, I hope it's out real soon and somebody does it. But so now I want to ask you another question related to this, and that is, now we know that the contrast is good for us. So how do we do it? If you can go a little bit into the details of the way of doing it, if not entirely, how long cold and sauna or heat for how long? And then it'll be great for the audience to know that. Yeah. So specifically, this is the Thermalist method. Yeah. And I think that people should definitely check out. If you are a professional, you should go and train yourself. I have a certification program if you're interested in that. But other than that, I would say 2 minutes in the cold is definitely enough. Contrast that with the sauna. And here we see in my studies that even 10 to 15 minutes each time is actually enough. You don't have to go multiple rounds or anything. If you can just start out with one cold and one heat session, that is also good enough. But you can also go back and forth a couple of times. And my research shows that if you do this 2 to 3 times a week, then you will have the benefits of faster glucose tolerance and also, Then you will have the benefits of faster glucose clearance and insulin sensitivity. So a few times a week is actually enough. What we could see is that, and I'll put some numbers on this now, because I think that it gives people a way of working something up, right? Absolutely. So what my studies found is that in total, and I say really with like capital letters, in total, 11 minutes per week is enough. And you divide that on 2 to 3 times per week. So you only have to dip a few minutes each dip. You can work yourself up to doing in total 11 minutes per week in the cold water and 57 minutes of sauna in a week. And you also divide that in multiple days per week. So that is actually enough.
Okay, great. So now we know that cold and heat and the benefit of it, and we know how long to do it for. Then there is this principle of yours that's also popularized by Dr. Huberman's podcast with you.
He named it.
Yeah, so that was really cool. The Soberg principle, as he calls it. What is the Soberg principle?
So the Soberg principle is actually the question about how do you get the most out of what you're doing. Yeah. So what I figured in my research, and actually I figured it out by doing it myself. I am definitely a cold sissy myself. So starting out experiencing the cold and the heat here in Denmark, and we are a cold country, so you can actually take a dip out in the sea. And what I found out, because I didn't have access to a sauna, is that when I got home, I would start shivering on the couch.
Okay.
And I wanted to figure out what was actually going on. And that's where I found out that the shorter is better. And I found out that when you're doing that, you are forcing your body to reheat on its own, by itself. And that takes energy. And the more I do that, and you can say every time I've been in the cold water, I deliberately don't go home and take a hot shower, because I want my body to create the heat by itself. And that is a cardiovascular and metabolic workout on its own, which you don't want to miss. That would be like going out and to the training center and stop midway. For me, it is.
Yeah.
So it might be for some a little bit difficult in the beginning, but you can work yourself up to that ending on the cold and not in the sauna. That is what it means. Then you would increase your metabolism and push your body to reheat naturally.
Okay, so you've got to end it on cold, right? That's the important part of it. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Sobe, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you, I come from India, and people in the tropical regions, in that region, do not have access to cold water a lot. We do have a lot of heat, but not cold. What would be the most accessible and cheapest way to do the thermalist method for somebody living in that region? And it is both cold and heat.
So at home, you would say?
Yes, at home, yeah.
I would say, I suppose you don't have cold water in your showers, right? No. So getting a top to fill up with water, then put ice in it if you need to. But if you cannot fill it with cold water, you would need to do that.
Yeah.
That is one way of getting the cold. I would say that's the most feasible way to do that. The heat, there are different ways you can do that. There's hot baths, there are steam rooms, there are saunas, and you can also get these for at-home use. And these are today very inexpensive, actually. So you could get this set up at home if you want to. And it doesn't take a lot of space. You can have it on a terrace, or you can have it in your garden, you can have it in a room even. So there are different modalities where you can do this.
Yeah, coming from that region and talking about heat, there's something that I used to do when I was a kid. I'm sure a lot of Indian kids have done it as well. In India, during summers, right now, for example, it's 12, 14 degrees here. And back home, it is about 45 degrees.
Oh.
So it is hot, right? If you sit in a car with your windows closed, not up to the top, but maybe you leave a little space to breathe, and you don't turn that car on, it becomes like a greenhouse.
Oh, God.
And, technically, it acts like a sauna without really costing, anything. So I'm just thinking out loud, and I might sound really stupid right now on camera, but tell me, does this technically do the same thing as a sauna?
I really wouldn't know.
No?
I would say the problem with that is that the temperature keeps increasing and you have no control.
Okay.
I would definitely, I would advise against that.
Okay.
Because you have no control.
Don't listen to what I say.
You need to, safety is the main key here.
Yeah.
That is also why people come up with stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And that one could actually end in an accident, I would say.
Whoa.
Yeah, but
I'm going to crop this out of the podcast
I
for sure.
actually think that you should not. I think you should keep... No, I think it's a good debate.
Yeah.
Because then you are probably avoiding that people are going to do that. And the other thing I would say, there are so many things that people are trying to do. Sitting in an ice bath, dipping their heads under the water and breathing through a straw. That is also something that I have seen. That is also stupid and really nothing to do with anything beneficial. But I would say, how could people really know? I mean, you are intelligent and you still got this idea. And that just shows that people need to educate themselves.
Correct.
They need to know what they're doing and not come up with new stuff that is not scientifically proven. So I'm just saying, keep to the science. That is also what I am doing and why I'm trying to educate people through the Thermalist method, because that is the science-backed method.
Yeah. And one way to do it is go through this book of yours that is also available on Amazon in India right now, right?
Yes.
It's called The Winter Swimming, The Nordic Way Towards a Healthier and Happier Life by Dr. Susanna Soberg. For a lot of you, it's Soberg. You'll find that easier.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, coming back to the topic again.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few things that come to my mind. Is steam versus sauna the same, or which is better?
No, it's not the same.
Okay.
Of course, it's not the same, but heat is heat, right? So that they have in common.
Yeah, by saying same, I meant like the same effect on the body, or sauna has a better effect. Or sorry to interject.
I mean, if you do a steam, you would surround your body with more water molecules, and when you do that, the humidity is higher. So that means it's more difficult for the body to get rid of the heat, and because of that, you cannot sweat as easily because the air is so dense with molecules already, and that makes it harder to sweat. Right? So that also means that even with a much lower temperature, you would try to get rid of the heat so much faster. You would try to do that, but it's difficult. So that's why in a steam room, you would get warmer very much faster. Within a few minutes, you would be done, you can say. Yeah. So if you use a steam sauna, which is super good, many benefits with that, but you just stay very much shorter in that. And in, you can say, a dry sauna, where you don't pour water on the stones, but it's a good thing to do. I think the humidity is super good. I'm all for a steam sauna, and the more steam, the better. I love it. But if you are in a dry sauna, then you could stay a little bit longer. But the steam sauna is good also for you can say, alternating between the cold and the heat, but you just need to be careful that you don't go too fast from the heat to the cold or from the cold to the heat. So acclimating in between is also very important, just to keep it safe. Okay, so that was for the heat. For the cold, showers, cold showers versus ice baths. Good one. Yeah, so cold showers. Definitely, if you are new to this and you just want to get a feeling, is this something that I could do? But I just want to say, cold showers are not the same as an ice bath or a cold plunge. You don't have to have ice in your bath to make it work. Just want to say that. But when you submerge into cold water, you also activate your parasympathetic part of your nervous system. And I think that is very important. My method, the Thermalist method, is about stressing up to stress down. So it's a method where you activate your nervous system and you also activate your resting part of your nervous system. So I'm all about looking at the nervous system as both activation and also deregulation. So you're getting into that nervous system balance. And you quite don't get that with the cold showers alone, but it's a good way to get started getting cold adapted.
There's a lot of talk also about, for example, I was watching this video on Instagram and YouTube where a very famous biohacking influencer by the name of Dave Asprey, he talked about dipping your face. If you don't have an ice bath or anything available to you, just dipping your face in ice cold water for 10 to 12 seconds and doing it for multiple times can kind of give you sort of same benefits or a lot of benefits compared to if you don't do it, right? Because he says that 80% or most of the receptors of temperature are on your face. Is there any science behind this? What do you say?
There's no real rigid studies on exactly that.
Yeah.
But we do know that you will activate your vagus nerve when you submerge your face to cold water and even some water. It doesn't matter if it's cold or hot, but getting your face into water, it will activate your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is connected with your parasympathetic nervous system. So that means you would decrease your heart rate. And that is a way to de-stress, you can say. But it won't it won't activate all your receptors in the body. So it will give you some benefits. What those are, we have no idea. There are no studies on this. This is just in theory something that will give you something. And I think that people should do it if they don't have anything else. It won't hurt. I mean, unless you don't take your face up and breathe.
Okay, and this is going to be the last part of the podcast where I want to talk a little bit about, and I'm very interested. I was watching this podcast by Joe Rogan, and in his podcast he talks about how someone, I don't remember exactly, but how someone increased their testosterone levels by taking a cold shower or a cold plunge right before their workout. So when you mix your workout with things like cold baths or ice baths, does it have an impact on sex hormones in humans?
Yeah, it would impact that. Testosterone levels will go up, but I'm not sure how much actually. It would definitely help, and especially if you're also doing heat, it's a good thing also to do the cold because the heat could decrease those levels. But I think that what is important here is to say something about women. There's a lot.
That was my next question.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are some interesting discussions, I think, online. There's always new discussions, but these are around whether women should do ice bath or cold plunges. And there's some misconceptions that are floating around that women should not do it. And I think that's definitely not true. There is no science showing that cold plunges are not beneficial for women. On the contrary, actually, we benefit a lot from it. But as long as you don't do it a long time, all the science points to the direction that we get exactly the same benefits as men do. But if you sit there for a very, very long time, it could be that you, just like men, would just decrease your temperature in your inner organs, and there is no benefits of that. Women can defend our core temperature just as good as men, but hold on, we don't do it the same way.
Just differently, right?
Just differently. The physiology is just different. You men have more muscle mass to increase the temperature, and women have a better vasoconstriction to keep the warm blood inside our cells. We have a little bit more white fat, but that also protects us a bit. But it's not enough, so that's why we have a little bit more brown fat. So, in that sense, everything equals out. You can say our human DNA has made us in a way where we can survive in the same environment. Because when we have ice ages or heat waves, it shouldn't be that we extinct all the women or extinct all the men. I mean, from a biological side, it doesn't really make sense. So we can adapt to different environments. We just do it in different ways. How much is enough for us? Well, just like I would say for men, and for women, as long as you just do it very briefly, then that is the same for men and for women. Women should be a little bit cautious around when they do it in their cycle.
Okay.
So women are a little bit more sensitive to stress when they're in the luteal phase of their cycle.
Okay.
And when they have the period. Okay. So when you feel a little bit more stressed there, you feel a bit more tired, you might feel more tired and stressed. That is where a cold plunge could feel a little bit too overwhelming for you. So if you are already experienced with the cold plunge and you feel that there's sometimes a difference in when you're doing it and how you feel about it, that could be the explanation. So my advice would be that if you feel okay with doing it in your luteal phase, then go ahead and continue that. It also decreases the menstrual pain for some people.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it does, the cramps.
Okay.
And also it helps also with the balancing your stress level. So if you already adapted to it, you might actually just keep going with it. But if you are super sensitive to stress while you're in your luteal phase, and especially for some women that is a thing, then just leave it out for that period and then continue again a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, I know a lot of women are going to kill me for asking this, especially my wife.
Really?
So is it a good idea? Because around the period, women are generally a little bit more edgy in terms of their mood.
Uh-huh.
Is it a good idea to go for this method during that time so that you can calm yourself down a little more and not get perturbed by small things? This will help all the men in the world.
I think that that is a good question. There's no research really showing that it will help.
That's the research somebody should work on.
I think it's a good study. I think the narrative should be more on how is it actually, would it help them? So is it helping women to getting more used to stress? I think so, but not if you are looking at the sensitivity in that situation. So that would still just vary. You could get used to it, as I said, and just continue. But if you are super sensitive to it in the first place, then that is where you might want to take a pause and get adapted in the other 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. But you probably, it won't cure your sensitivity, but it might get you adapted to a situation where you can balance better. And that's more on the mental side, I think. So I think definitely it could be something in the future.
Great. Dr. Sobe, I've understood a few things and I want to just wrap it up real quick. Cold is good for you because it improves your metabolism and also improves your insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
So that helps you reduce fat, the regular fat that we have, but increase the brown fat, which is the good fat. Heat improves your cardiovascular health and also reduces inflammation in the body. So you are not as sore. Is that correct, if I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, in the muscles.
Yes.
Yeah. It decreases the inflammation in the muscles. After a workout, that is great. Taking a sauna, for example.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be sore and you want to be ready to compete in a competition the next day, then you could also take a cold plunge because it actually turns off that inflammation.
And I have experienced that because during winters, when I do take more cold showers, I sometimes, like if I have bad knees after a long run, I would just put my knees in water. Right. And that kind of improves and gets me ready for the next day. I feel much better. So that's also something that's scientifically backed as well, right?
That is scientifically backed. Yeah.
Okay. So that's heat and cold. And then there's the Thermalist method that you've devised, wherein how to exactly use both of these in a scientifically backed manner.
Yeah.
So Dr. Soberg, that's pretty much what we've talked about in a nutshell. Is there any more research going on in this field?
Oh, I think I don't have a finger on everything that is going on in the world, on all the universities, of course not. But what I can see from mostly people reaching out to me and telling about their studies and what they're interested in, and what I can see from like previews of what is going on, I think there's research going on very many different topics. And I can't say that there's one topic being more important than the others, because these are tools that can be used for a wide range of things, diseases and conditions and symptoms. I mean, stress relief is something that will help on so many levels. I mean, it would decrease chronic stress, inflammation, and how many lifestyle diseases do you think is connected with that?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's both the mental and it's the physical diseases that we would decrease. So I definitely think that we have something here. But I think it takes some time to collect all that research. But that is also what we did with physical activity, right? 50 years ago, it was really not that known. People were jogging around in the US and people were like, oh, they're running from some criminality or something.
Yeah.
But actually, they were just doing something healthy for their bodies. And today, it's very, very well recognized that physical activity is something that is good for us. And it's keeping us healthy. And I think this is something that we in 30, 50 years or before that, I hope, will say, of course, we do cold and heat therapy because it's good for us.
Yeah. And I also think, on an ending note, that any ritual, most of them actually, that have been going on for a long time in a culture, and if they've survived that long, they must have something good to it. The only thing is that we need to look into the science a little bit more and, to justify it scientifically and back it with some facts.
Back it with some facts and some methods and some rituals. I mean, physical activity is also not just physical activity.
Correct.
There is a reason why we have so much research today and programs and showing how should you do this to increase your flexibility, and how do you do a program where you will increase your muscle mass. At some point, we figured out that you need to change the weight, for example, when you do a training. And at some point, we figured out how much should you run or what is good for you, and then what happens. So I think there's so much to explore, and I think definitely we should always do it science-backed.
Fantastic. Dr. Sober, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about this very special method and science.
You're welcome.
Understand the science behind it. Thank you for having me, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.